So this is the PUMA Ultra 5 Ultimate, which is the, should we say, less dramatic little brother to that very insane, super hardcore Ultra 5 Carbon. And I also reckon that to some players out there, it might be the better, slightly more balanced option. So in today's video, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know, including the differences between the Ultimate and the Carbon, plus of course also what it does well and not so well, to hopefully help you decide if you should buy an Ultra, and in that case, which of them. So let's do it. So the new Ultra Ultimate has more or less the exact same upper as the Ultra Carbon, with this textile mesh upper with the silicone coating and the power tape SQD strips in the midfoot and heel, plus of course a knit tongue. And unlike on the previous generation of the Ultra Ultimate, which had a pretty brutal upper, this is just soft. I mean, I said in my review of the Ultra Carbon that it reminded me a little bit of the Vapor Posit material on the Vapor 14. However, this is just somehow even softer. It feels like this really fun mixture of like being very textile-like, but then also has a hint of this classic synthetic upper vibe because of the silicone coating. And still, you know, it's just very, very soft. And the most important thing is that it's just so easy to put on and just really enjoy immediately, because it almost just feels as if it melts around your foot. Think of a really soft cloth that just lands on top of your foot and just smoothly wraps around it. That's what the Ultra Ultimate feels like. And there's just no, you don't have to make compromise. It's just a lovely, lovely, comfortable fit where, honestly, it just fits. It's as if PUMA hired this to be my personal foot waiter, and its sole purpose is to just make my foot happy. And it does. It feels very good. Now, the fit in general here is, of course, on the sculptor side because it is a speed boot, but I'd also say for the unisex model here that it is rather accommodating in the sense that you can slap this on a relatively wide foot and still feel pretty welcome. And the upper will adapt, which is not exactly what you could say for the previous version of the Ultra Ultimate. What's also cool here is that if you want a slightly more snug fit in the midfoot or overall in general, there's also the women's version, which is perfect for that because there's a bit lower instep volume. It sits a little bit closer on the midfoot, and the heel is also a little bit more snug, which for me is absolutely perfect because while the Outsole padding here is nice, it's also a little bit too thin for me, and I would have liked it to hug the heel just a little bit tighter and more closely. And again, the women's version fixes that. Now, compared to the Ultra Carbon here, I would also say that I expected the fit to be very similar, and overall it is, but I did find the Ultimate just to have a little bit less width in the midfoot, just a little bit, and also the toe seems to be slightly lower and a bit more pointy and, should we call it, less boxy? Probably because it doesn't have that toe bumper that's needed for the bonding between the carbon sole and the upper. And you might think it's a problem because the upper sits tighter around your toes, but again, it's so soft that it's just gonna accommodate. So I personally didn't have an issue, and I like me a low pointy toe box. So that's good. However, even in the women's fit, there is still that bit of extra space around the heel that I also got in the Ultra Carbon that I would have liked to hug the foot tighter, simply to give a more athletic and connected feel. But despite that lovely softness, you actually also get, I would say, decent lockdown in the upper here. And I actually started noticing how the power tape inside, especially the midfoot, started getting to work as I did these aggressive changes of direction and acceleration, which meant that my foot started to move a little bit inside of the boot. So that was really nice. And I would say that with the standard lacing setup here, the lockdown is decent to pretty good. But if you do the runner's loop, where you then push the heel back into the heel of the boot and also the midfoot a little bit further down on the plate, the lockdown is quite far above average and actually really, really solid. And of course, then there is also the sizing, which for me at least is just as weird as it is on the Ultra Carbon. So my UK6 25 centimeters that I always wear in PUMA is 26-ish centimeters long, meaning that I do have what feels like a quarter to half a size of extra space, just especially around this part of the foot. And since going down half a size, which you could do, would I think be a little bit too tight for me, I'm a little bit stuck in limbo here where I don't get the perfect length for me.
However, since the upper is so soft, I mean, if you like it top tight, maybe you can pull it off. If you can, in any boot, it should be this, because yeah.
And then there is the outsole, which is also where you'll find the biggest change from the carbon version.
And again, it's nowhere near as wild as the carbon option, but I do reckon that the fact that this feels like the light version of the carbon makes a bit more sense for all of those players that potentially don't realize just how wild and hardcore the carbon experience is. Yeah, I love it personally, it's great fun, but it's also very niche. And I think this might just be a little bit more sensible and balanced for more players out there. Just make sure that you don't take it on artificial grass. Yes, it's less extreme than the carbon, which is also a complete no-go, but I still think that the studs are too long and too aggressive to wear on AG. It's just an ACL waiting to happen. Don't do it. As for the touch, obviously, it is also quite similar to the Ultra Carbon, because it's the same upper, in the sense that it is rather thin and close to the ball. And then you have this like matte, almost sticky finish to the coating that does remind me a little bit of what's on the Phantom GX and the Grip Knit, just not as grippy, you know, but it has this almost amplified natural stick to it. It's not texture, but it's just this built-in grippiness in the material. And actually on dry conditions, with a football that's maybe also a little bit grippy on the coating, the Ultra can feel, I would say, sticky to the point where it surprised me a little bit and I had to adjust. And also, of course, the toe bumper is gone, meaning that for me, the Ultimate just felt ever so slightly more nimble and direct on the ball, which I'm actually in favor of. So easy, lovely to dribble with, straightforward. Oops.
And all in all, we are talking about a package that will set you back 50 euros less than the carbon version.
Sure, the Ultra Ultimate doesn't kind of have the same wow factor as the really crazy carbon Ultra here. But once the dust, carbon dust, whatever, settles, I do think that it is a more balanced option, and I don't think it's unfair to say that it's probably also the more reasonable, you know, sensible little brother to the Ultra Carbon. And I think if you are in doubt about which one to go for, it is probably the safer, more generally appealing option to go with the Ultra. And to be fair, I love the carbon. It's crazy, it's wild, but I would probably be leaning towards the Ultimate as well, because it feels a bit more nimble. But what about you guys? Which of the two boots would you choose? Well, as always, let me know in the comment section right down below. Remember that you can buy both the Ultimate and the Carbon, of course, in the same new colorway as the Ultimate, in the link to Unisport right over there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on, and if you want to see my review of the Carbon, you can do so right down there. With those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.